Good evening. My name is Michelle Wilson. I'm with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and I'm the new REAP Coordinator. Thank you for joining tonight. I'm going to try to spend my time focused a lot more on the Resource Enhancement and Protection Fund programs the Department of Natural Resources directly administers, but I am also going to touch really briefly on the programs our sister agencies administer also. Sister agencies such as the Department of Cultural Affairs, the Department of Ag and Land Stewardship, and the Department of Transportation. So let's get into it. Let's learn about how REAP and outdoor recreation affects all Iowans. Iowa just hasn't been a public land use state. We don't have thousands of acres wrapped up in federal lands. We aren't like the Colorados and the Wyomings with all that opportunity. But 30 some years ago, it was noted that we needed to do something. And in 1989, the legislature recognized this need for conservation improvements, and they created an open spaces program. At that same time, people were complaining to the legislators and the governor about the park user fee that was in place. People had to pay $2 or $10 a year to visit state parks, and it generated just about $1.2 million a year back then. At the same time, a group of 25 nonprofit organizations from the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, Wild Turkey Federation, the Park and Rec Association, county conservation boards, environmental groups, and so on, lobbied for more conservation funding. All of this culminated in the Resource Enhancement and Protection Act, which was signed into law by Governor Branstad on May 27, 1989. REAP's main goal is to develop parks and open spaces, improve habitat and water quality, increase outdoor recreation opportunities, and preserve our cultural heritage. But it's a program that invests in Iowans' quality of life and hits every Iowan in all 99 counties. So since '89, we've funded about $365 million worth in projects, again, across every county in the state of Iowa. However, based on requests, there's just needs have never been higher. Each year we have, 17 county conservation board requests, and we may only have enough funding to do 3 or 4, and the same is with the city grants as well. So just lots and lots of requests, lots of need, but just not nearly enough funding. But there are two parts of REAP. There is the funding side and the public participation side. And I'll get into public participation a little later. But, we have in code that REAP can go up to 20 million. But we've been fortunate that at least for the last 5 years, the legislature and the governor have continued to put $12 million in appropriation. And this year we have a $12 million appropriation. Natural resource license plates revenue also comes into the REAP program. About $200,000 comes directly into the REAP program from the sale of those license plates. We do split the funding from the license plates with the Wildlife Diversity Program, and they get on average about $400,000. But again, all of their projects, just as REAP, go into local activities in all 99 counties across the state. So if you haven't purchased one, please go down to your treasurer's office. This plate that I have here as a sample is definitely our REAP logo on the plate, but we also have a bald eagle, a deer, a turkey, or not a turkey, a bald eagle, a deer, a pheasant, and a trout plate. So, lots of opportunities to choose from. Again, funds come back into the REAP fund as well as wildlife diversity. All goes back to great things all across Iowa. So go down to the treasurer's office to get one. Moving along, you'll see me reference this pie chart quite a bit as we go through this presentation. This pie chart exists because 32 years ago, the governor, the legislature, and all of our partners created this wonderful REAP formula. It's how the money gets distributed to all of the different funds that then get distributed down to the actual grants and the people who do the work out in the counties. I think this has stayed virtually intact. And it was to that great, idea and that great collaboration that they had 32 years ago that we're able to keep maintaining this and to do all of the good works that we have. You'll see me reference each of these elements of this pie chart. I call them the pie piece. And so as we go along, we'll be indicating which pie piece we're talking about. As I said, all 99 counties have been touched in some way through REAP. please go out to iowareap.com or go to the DNR website, type in REAP, and you'll get to our REAP pages. You'll be able to go onto some of our different sites to see exactly which counties have received money and what monies they've received and what projects they went into. All of this is up on the website for anybody to go grab at any time you wanted to look at it. Again, REAP benefits everybody. It improves our quality of life. It provides the Iowa workforce something to do after 5 o'clock. And just thinking of outdoor recreation pieces, you know, everything we do contributes in different ways and kind of a trickle down. You know, there's $649 million in state and local revenue. There's $2.7 billion in wages and salaries and 83,000 in direct jobs and 8.7 in consumer spending annually just with outdoor recreation. So everything we put onto the ground has this trickle-down effect that benefits in a lot of other ways to Iowans and the life that we lead. So let's talk about one of the first kind of pieces, not directly a pie piece, but it is 1% of the fund that goes for administration. So this 1% of the fund does fund some of my time as the REAP coordinator, as well as our grants administrator who helps get all of the money, especially for the DNR programs, out to the grants in the cities and the counties and all the good things that we do out in the ground. So the 1% does contribute to that. It also helps us do things like REAP Congress and REAP assemblies. So in every other year, we host assemblies. So in 2023, we will be hosting assemblies all across Iowa into every region that we have of the state. And so remember 2023, you'll be seeing invitations about that coming along. You know, we want everybody to come, listen about REAP, provide thought, provide comments. And all of those thoughts and comments then go into what we call REAP Congress. So then right as soon as REAP assemblies are done in 2023, we will hold REAP Congress in January of 2024 prior to the start of the legislative session. And that body comes together and they provide some thoughts and comments and direction that is then documented and passed on to the state legislature for their review for that upcoming session. So that public participation part that this 1% also supports is really important because it lets your voice get heard for how REAP benefits you or how you want REAP to move, and that information gets conveyed then directly to the legislature upon the closing of REAP Congress. So this top 1% for that administration does a lot of really great and big things to keep this program moving and representative of what Iowans want it to be. The next part that comes off the top, also not really a part of the pie, but as indicated by code, $350,000 comes off the top for what is known as the Resource Conservation Education portion, or known as REAP CEP or REAP SEP. So a lot of the grantees for this program are universities, naturalists. We do have some individuals who are trying to do some really great things with children of autism or disability. So we do have a wide depth and breadth of grants that go out for this program, but a lot of that work is going into developing educational opportunities for Iowans to participate in, for college students to more greatly participate in or have learning or understanding in, or for schools to have other kinds of activities and field trips and get them moving, including some schools, elementary and high schools, that are applying for grant dollars to also try and get their schools to have educational activities. Or in some instances with some just recently, they created interpretive panels that go out to some of their resources right outside their schoolyard. Some of the other examples are the wildlife camps. So this last summer, there were a number of wildlife camps in state parks run by the University of Iowa that gave a whole bunch of children the opportunity to come play in the outdoors for a week-long adventure. So REAP conservation education programs do a lot of really great things that help outdoor recreation in a different way, with also providing that understanding and creating that awareness and creating that love in the outdoors, whether it's for pre-K children all the way through adults. So great things that the REAP CEP program does, and it's the first $350,000 off the top of the REAP allocation for that grant. That grant has 2 application periods per year, one in May and another one coming up November 1st. We have all of our DNR grants on Slide Room, so you can go to our DNR website, again, type in REAP, and there will be a link to our Slide Room if you want to apply for any of those Resource Enhancement and Protection Conservation Education Program grants. So here's just a couple of other examples and photos for you to kind of see, just the enjoyment that people have from the conservation end. And here's, again, that reference to the wildlife camps and where they're located throughout the state of Iowa. Great program, just a lot of fun. Watching the kids enjoy those times is just really something special. So we're actually going to dive into the pie now, the pie chart, and talk about kind of our first pie piece with one of our sister agencies. So this first 3% is the roadside vegetation program for the REAP allocation. And so, this really does a lot of great things to help the habitat across the state of Iowa. And I'm just going to go through a couple of slides that they have provided that we use. So this, again, is by the Iowa Department of Transportation, and this really goes into their integrated roadside vegetation management. And it's to establish those diverse stands of native plants in the roadside right-of-ways, reduce erosion, enhance rainfall and infiltration, create habitat for pollinators, nesting birds, and other wildlife, have more appealing roadsides, maintain those safe travel environments, reduce roadside maintenance, and all those good things with the integrated roadside management. But within that, they also have some funding categories. So you can have demonstration projects, you can do education, create outdoor learning environments. There's a number of them, and they can all be found on the Department of Transportation's website as well. So please get out there and go to DOT and type Integrated Roadside Living Roadway Trust Fund, They also have some really great resources that I'm sure you'll hear more about, but they have great resources that schools can get, individuals can get, booklets, and they've had posters and just great stuff to help you understand and make those connections to these very important habitats that we have across Iowa, and including the need to have more of those habitats to get more of that vegetation on the ground. That really helps us in a lot of different ways. Besides the fact that it looks beautiful when you're driving down a lot of our roads, or for schools, it looks really beautiful lining the different schools that we have for the number of them that have been putting in prairie habitats and other kind of vegetation habitats. So the next part of the pie chart, which is also handled by our sister agency, is the 5% that goes to the historical resource development. And this is handled by the Department of Cultural Affairs. So they also have a grant program. It's called the Historical Resource Development Program. Again, you can get onto their website and type in REAP or type in Historical Resource Development Program, and it'll lead you directly to all of the information that you want for them. They have a couple of different grant categories within their grant. So they have documentary collections and historic preservations and museums. So those 3 different categories for that. And they can have non-governmental units apply, nonprofit corporations, tribal nations, individuals, and businesses. So, please go out there and look. We've been fortunate. We also can apply for these grants, and we've had some great projects. We actually had original original paintings from Maynard Reese at one of our fish hatcheries. And as you can imagine, after years of display, they had some wear, and we actually applied for this funding and had those repaired, and had made copies and put the copies back at our fish hatchery, and then got the actual printings into the hands of people that could protect them, but also then potentially share them across the state in other kinds of exhibits, so more people could see them just than those people who came to one of our fish hatcheries. So great opportunities. I have gone around the state of Iowa, lots of wonderful historic preservation grants that have been given across the different years to just help keep some of our Iowa history alive. So again, you can be a governmental unit, nonprofit organization, tribal nation, an individual or business, and reach out to that historical preservation grants and get your applications in. The next part of the pie chart is, I'm skipping over one if you hadn't noticed. I'm going to save that 9% for last. I'm going to go on to the 15% for cities, parks, and open spaces, because that is also another grant opportunity. That is one that we have in the Department of Natural Resources. And this piece really helps build and develop parks and trails and other open spaces for residents to enjoy in communities across Iowa. This does so much for all sizes of communities, and these funds are extremely competitive. We easily receive 2 to 3 times the amount of requests for funding versus funding that is actually available. And REAP grants for the Department of Natural Resources were due on August 15th. So our review and selection committees are actually reviewing all of these grants at this time, coming together on September 21st to make their selections so that I can take that on to our Natural Resource Commission in October and have them approve that. So this year's grantees will have their awards announced later in October, and they'll be able to have their grant agreements and start kicking off on all those great new projects come later this fall and winter. You know, some of this is through 3 different city size categories. So you don't have in this grant program small communities competing against larger cities like Des Moines or Iowa City. There's actually 3 different sizes of categories established to assure grants are distributed well. So these grants are 100%, so local matching funds are not required. This grant program is, as I said, is extremely competitive, and they are not available for single or multi-purpose athletic fields, baseball, softball diamonds, tennis courts, golf courts, or other organized sport facilities. If you have something like that you want to have fund, you need to look at the Department of Natural Resources has what's called Land and Water Conservation Fund grants. Those are a different grant source with different financial backing that can fund multi-sport. The REAP city open spaces cannot fund those multi-sport recreation, swimming pools, and those kind of activities. What we do want is parkland expansion, multi-purpose recreation developments like trails, you know, those types of things that just lots of people can use and enjoy. And so that's the kind of grants that we're looking for. The amount of grant money available to a city depends upon its population. So getting U.S. Census information ahead of applying for this grant is really important because that population size depends on what category, small, medium, or large, that you can actually apply to. So definitely go to the website, get the information that we have on our REAP web pages, and we have also additional information with Slide Room. If you go to Slide Room today, you won't see those grant opportunities showing because that grant has been closed on August 15th. Those grants will show up again for being able to apply next spring. So we try to get those grants open about 4 or 5 months sometimes ahead of when the grant is actually due. That way you can get in, start looking at what you need to gather, put it all together, you know, draft it a couple of different ways before you actually want to submit it. So you won't be able to see them today, but by next spring, they'll be live again and you'll be able to see them and start making application. So again, I mentioned that it's comprised of small, medium, and large based on that census data. And so here's just kind of a quick slide that shows how that's all broken down. So the next part of the pie chart we're going to go to is the 20% for soil and water enhancement. This is done by our sister agency, the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. So they have also a great program with a lot more information on their website. So please get out to the Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship's website and look at how their money is distributed. They have special projects. They have money that goes into all 99 counties, but they also have special projects. So they have a couple of different ways they do that, and they handle that a lot through district offices that are located out in the field. So not as much handled through their central main office that would be in Des Moines, like the REAP dollars are handled through our main kind of office in Des Moines. With Ag and Land Stewardship, they handle a lot of things through their district offices and get money from the Des Moines office out to their district offices to get it out to their people. So they have a little bit different structure and flow, but they do a lot of things for soil and water protection. A lot of things with erosion control or water protection that is out there in watersheds. So lots of great work that goes on the ground that can be done with practices and everything else that they can fund. So again, make sure you get out to their website to see a lot of the details for that, or go to the district office, because the district office would be, you know, really able to give you a lot of details and actually share maybe some positive projects that have been done at your local area, so that you can see maybe if there's an opportunity for you or for your watershed that you may be working with. Is there an opportunity to do that? As with all of the grants, I think it's really great to talk to the grant administrators to get a little perspective if you're new to writing these grants, or even if you've written them for a long time. What does success look like? What kind of is working that the grant review and selection committees are really looking for? I am not a grant reviewer, so you're not going to influence me to vote positive or negatively for your grant. But definitely, please call me and ask me questions. I'm more than happy to do so. And I believe any of the district offices with Ag and Land Stewardship or Department of Cultural Affairs, or even the representatives with Department of Transportation and Trees Forever, who helps out a lot with Department of Transportation funds, anybody would be happy to talk you through projects, thoughts, and ideas and help guide you in a direction that can maybe be successful. Sometimes that guidance may be saying, I have another funding source for you. Please go over to the Land and Water Conservation Fund because they can actually fund your softball or baseball park. So, a lot of us have, as we listen to your projects and programs, we want to help you if we can with this program, but we also may have resources that we can help direct you into other things as well so that we get the most that we can on the ground and get outdoor recreation and good stuff for Iowans. So another grant opportunity, the next pie chart, the 20%, is with the county conservation boards. These funds are crucial to counties because they provide much needed match to local and federal grants that they apply for. These grants are also very competitive, and there are about 3 to 4 times the requests for the funding that is available. Just as an example, last year, and we have about the same this year, 17 projects that applied for grant funding. Last year, we were able to fully fund, if I remember correctly, 3 fully funded and a 4th partially funded. So out of 17, that's a real small amount. Lots of requests, not enough money to go around, as is the case for almost all of the grant programs within REAP as well as others. So some of the most evenly distributed money from REAP is through the county conservation board systems. For many county conservation boards in the state, particularly the small ones, REAP is a vital source of their annual funding. This money is available to counties for land easements or acquisition, capital improvements, stabilization and protection of resources, repair and upgrading of facilities, environmental education, and equipment. Expenditures are not allowed for those athletic fields, baseball, tennis courts, golf courses, and other organized sports and playgrounds, just like the city. It's not allowed in the county system either. 30% of their allocation goes automatically to all 99 counties, equally distributed. The money is provided on a quarterly basis and can be used for any of the above purposes. The next 30% of the County Conservation Board account is allocated based on population. So counties with larger populations receive more money than the counties with smaller populations. This money is also distributed quarterly, but there is an eligibility requirement. Counties are eligible to receive these funds if they are dedicating at least 22% or 22 cents per $1,000 of the assessed value of taxable property in the county for county conservation purposes. In other words, a county must be committing a specified tax levy amount from the county tax dollars to conservation in order to receive their per population REAP allocation. The remaining 40% of the account is available through the competitive grants. The 22% or 22 cent eligibility criteria also applies to the grants, and the grants are 100%, so a local match is not required. Again, competition is extremely tough. Applications are also accepted once a year on August 15th. They are also in review right now with their review and selection committee, with selections being made on August 21st also, with our commission seeking approval in their October meeting. So again, you won't be able to see these grants online on Slide Room right now because they are closed and in process with the current year, but those also will come out again next spring. So you can go on, see what's required, what you have to do to be able to apply for those grants. So if you'd like to see more information on the cities and the counties, please go to that iowadnr.gov/REAP, click on REAP grants. We try to be very transparent with our website. Not only do we show all the REAP dollars that have happened in every county, but we do try to give a lot of other information on the cities and counties and the County Conservation Board REAP grants. So we also have some great references on those pages where you can populate or open up this map, and every little goldfinch on a rose is a location where REAP dollars have been done. So you can zoom into this map and find out specifically, kind of where your dollars have been in your county as well. So please go out to the website. We try to keep this up to date. I'm working on getting new data up onto this website So there will probably be changes coming this fall with a whole bunch of new data based on dollar figures that were handed out last year, as well as these upcoming grant dollars that we have. So the last two pie charts are not grant dollars per se, but these are the public land management 9% and the open space fund 28% that the Department of Natural Resources receives. So there is the state open spaces, 28% is for state acquisition and development of lands and waters. So half this money can be directed towards land acquisition, improved water quality, and public access, and half can be towards facility development in parks, forests, fish hatcheries, wildlife areas, paddling access, etc. So the cost share agreement, there's also a portion that has a grant, small one, and it's the REAP private public grants. I forgot about that one, so I do apologize. This does have a grant in it. And that grant has to have a 75% of the acquisition costs coming from REAP and the other 25% coming from private contributions. And the program provides an excellent opportunity for private conservation organizations to help the DNR achieve open spaces protection goals. So the DNR, upon that grant being funded, owns and manages the property that is jointly purchased. So, again, we have this as a grant opportunity on Slide Room. You can't see it right now. That is also in that same kind of process of getting reviewed and moving forward as well. So that is the other grant. I apologize. I forgot there was one coming out of that 28%. The DNR has a land management of 9%, and this is for the development and management of the state conservation lands. Examples are trail renovations, shower and restroom replacements, repairs to lodges, shelters, cabins, minor repair of dams, spillways, parking lots, beaches. This account really serves as a substitute for the state park user permit, which was terminated by the legislature when REAP was enacted. So just a lot of different things, habitat improvements on forests, wildlife areas. There's a lot of great things that this 9% of land management that it goes to. So I will say that on November 9th last year, there's a lot of great information that comes out from the Bureau of Economic Analysis about who uses these places. And 65% of residents participate in outdoor recreation, 65% of Iowa's. As I mentioned earlier, $649 million in state and local taxes, 83,000 in direct jobs, and $8.7 billion in consumer spending annually. So, all of this that we do really directly impacts that outdoor recreation economy, and again, impacts all Iowans. We have 30 years of statewide impact. The REAP program was approved a couple years ago within the legislature. I believe it was 2020, that it now doesn't sunset until 2026. And it had an earlier sunset, and it was approved to lengthen that sunset because the legislature and the governor still believes in the value of this program and what it does for all Iowans. Please, get out and look at what you have in your local communities. My guess is you'll find a REAP sign somewhere, because we have just touched every place around the bend, and we still have more work to do, and we still have more grants to look at and more grants to award in all of the funding pieces. Not just, the ones that Department of Natural Resource manages, but the ones for Ag and Land Stewardship, Department of Transportation, and the Department of Cultural Affairs. So I've been a pleasure for the last year to be named the REAP Coordinator. It really dovetails in with a lot of other work that I do for the Department of Natural Resources as the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan coordinator. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have conversations with many communities, with many county conservation boards and educators over the last 12 months since I've been named coordinator. And just a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun to drive around and see those REAP signs, which kind of mean a little different to me now that I'm a coordinator. Not that they weren't special before, but it's a little bit different now that I'm in this coordinator's role. I do ask that everybody, if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to give me a call. I'm happy to talk to anybody, help you noodle your project, maybe think of ways that you could strengthen it that might rise to the top with our review and selection committees, or just noodle maybe what your different opportunities are and how you might want to work with different partners. Because of the work that I have with the SCORP plan, I have a lot of different tools and a lot of different resources that I can provide to you that can get you on your way. So for all of those of you who've been supporters of REAP for the last 32 years, in whatever way, license plates or not, thank you. I hope you continue to be supporters, and I really greatly appreciate your time. Hopefully, if you learned a little bit new about REAP, I was able to do that, or if you've never heard about REAP, hopefully now you kind of understand and know and can dig in. Lastly, as I mentioned before, 2023 is when we conduct our REAP assemblies again. It's always in the fall. Look for the announcements for that. I really hope you'll come out and join us for those conversations. We want as many people to come out as possible and offer your thoughts, ideas, and support for the REAP program. Thank you and have a great night.